At the heart of today's weather is a sprawling, high-amplitude mid-level ridge centered across the deep South and Gulf Coast. This ridge, stretching from the western Atlantic through the southeastern U.S., has heights approaching 599 decameters over parts of Louisiana and Mississippi. This is a particularly strong ridge for late July, and it's acting like a broad atmospheric lid. Subsidence beneath this ridge is reinforcing an inversion between 900 and 850 millibars, effectively trapping moisture in the lower boundary layer and suppressing vertical motion. The inversion is reinforced by large-scale drying aloft, aided by the encroachment of a Saharan air layer. Yes, even this far west. The result is a remarkably stable environment, with only shallow convective growth, despite intense surface heating. At the surface, a complementary high-pressure system stretches from the western Atlantic through the northern Gulf. This is feeding an east to southeast low-level flow into the Florida peninsula. The flow is weak, more background than dynamic, but it helps reinforce the dryness along the east coast where dew points are running in the low 70s. Meanwhile, inland areas are starting to recover tropical moisture profiles, with dew points pushing into the mid to upper 70s, especially west of the I-95 corridor and into central Florida. Overnight soundings out of Miami and Melbourne revealed precipitable water values near 1.1 to 1.3 inches, well below seasonal averages. The drier the column, the harder it is for thermals to develop deep enough for storm formation. And under this capping inversion, thermals are being snuffed out before they can mature. While deep convection is largely being suppressed today, it's not entirely absent. Along interior Florida, where surface heating is unimpeded and moisture values are creeping up, the sea breeze remains the primary mesoscale forcing mechanism. Convergence along this boundary, especially where Atlantic and Gulf breezes meet inland, could still support isolated thunderstorm development. These storms are expected to remain shallow but could generate brief, gusty outflows thanks to elevated downdraft CAPE values over 1,000 joules per kilogram in the interior. Any showers or storms that form today will be isolated, brief, and likely focused after peak heating between 2 and 6 p.m. Coverage is expected to be around 30 to 40% inland, dropping off sharply toward the coast where the air mass remains too dry. Heat and density. Altitude performance considerations. Temperatures today are soaring into the mid to upper 90s inland and lower 90s along the coast. With lower dew points near the shoreline, heat indices stay more manageable, 100 to 103 degrees, but interior regions are experiencing values closer to 105 to 110. These are levels that warrant caution for density-altitude concerns. Pilots departing inland terminals such as Lakeland, Kissimmee, or interior Melbourne should be aware of reduced climb performance. High heat and lower surface pressure in this regime can yield density altitudes approaching 3,000 feet, even at sea-level airfields. Florida's unique geography, a peninsula surrounded by warm ocean water, plays a vital role in today's setup. With the Atlantic Ridge in place and weak synoptic flow, sea breezes dominate. Along the southeast coast, the Atlantic breeze develops by mid-morning, pushing a shallow band of moisture inland. Along the Gulf Coast, a similar process unfolds later in the day. Where these two breezes meet, typically across the spine of the peninsula near Lake Okeechobee, lift can be enough to overcome the cap, particularly late in the afternoon. However, any convective growth remains limited to the low-topped cumulonimbus clouds, perhaps reaching 25,000 feet before being sheared apart or collapsing. For aviators, today's weather across the southeast and especially Florida is a mixed bag. Widespread VFR prevails under mostly sunny skies and dry mid-level air. Morning haze may briefly reduce visibility near the coast, but this will mix out quickly. However, inland airports, especially those in central and southwest Florida, could see brief convective interruptions in the late afternoon. Areas like Gainesville, Ocala, or even Orlando may experience 30-minute impacts due to isolated thunderstorm outflows. Gusty winds of 30 knots and brief ceilings below 3,000 feet are possible, but not widespread. In many ways, today's weather is a lesson in what doesn't happen. We have the heat, we have some surface moisture, but we lack vertical motion, deep layer instability, and adequate upper level support. The mid-level ridge acts as a cap, the SAL as a dry sponge, and the weak flow fails to lift parcels beyond their equilibrium level. This is the anatomy of a suppressed convective regime. Still, the sea breeze tries. It prods the cap just enough to let isolated thermals reach critical thresholds inland. It's an interplay of mesoscale versus macroscale forces,